my name. Cause you knew that I knew that I knew that I'd call you up. You go around, every party in LA.
Today we are talking about first aid. I know it's a common thing that most of you hear, and you don't even know what actually goes into first aid, or what is supposed to be in a first aid and what is not supposed to be in a first aid. So today we have in the studio Miss Leeds, or Miss Lydia Aqua, and she is a neuro and trauma nurse, and she's here in the studio with us to help us understand, or better understand, what it means to say first aid, and what is actually, or what goes into a first aid, rather than what we understand or what we see. Miss Leeds, you're welcome.
Thank you so much.
It's good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
You're
It's
pretty,
such
by
an
the
honor
way.
to be here.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're pretty.
Thank you.
So this morning we are talking about first aid. What do we mean when we say first aid?
So first aid is not just, getting up to save lives or just save someone, but it's also knowing when you come to a scene or when something happens, how to react. So first aid is basically giving help, right? Giving medical help, medical attention. You might not be a doctor, you might not be a nurse, but you are able to give help to someone, right? So it's preserving life. It's literally saving life on spot, basically.
Okay. So it still boils down to, I think, it's still the basics that we know.
Yeah.
Yes. But
Yeah.
what are some of the basic techniques of first aid?
Well, first aid is broad.
Okay.
First aid is broad. Like, first aid could be like giving first aid when someone is choking. It could basically be an anaphylactic shock, which means an allergic shock. It could be bleeding. It could be trauma. It could be a heart attack. It's so big. It's so broad. But I think what we know is, or what we are familiar with, are accidents, right? Like when an accident happens,
Right.
what is the first thing that you do? This is what we are familiar with. What happens is that a lot of people get frustrated or overwhelmed, right? Because there is a lot happening. There might be a lot of people around you. You are seeing blood. Some people can't take blood. They get frustrated, and the first thing that they do is scream and scream for help, probably with the casualty just lying there helpless. And in that moment, it is very, very important to react well and know how to react, right? Because at this time, the person depends on you, and that every little time counts. And this is what is the most important thing, that every little time, every minute, every second that you are with the casualty counts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And talking about accident scenes, I heard that when it comes to first aid, when the moment it happens, you're not supposed to move the victim.
Yeah.
In a way of helping the person.
Well, it is true. It depends on what it actually is.
Okay.
So the problem here is that, or what could happen is that if you move the victim, you could break bones or dislocate in, shoulders, arms, or even the spine. This is the reason why we say do not, move the casualty. Now just imagine you are in the middle of the road and the casualty is lying in the middle of the road and there are cars passing left, right. You have to move the casualty. But even that one, there is a way to move the casualty, right? Without pulling their arms and legs. You are supposed to move the casualty on one spot straight to the other instead of pulling arms, legs here and there. So it is advised not to move the casualty, but it really, really depends on where you are and what actually happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then if we say that, then what are some of the rules when it comes to first aid?
It's you first. Take care of yourself first. So make sure you are out of the danger zone.
Okay.
you can't just cross the highway if the casualty
Right.
of the accident happens on, the other side of the road, because what if the car hits you? You can't help yourself, and you can't help the casualty as well. So the first thing is really to make sure that you are in a safe spot, and then make sure that you are good. And also, when you get to the casualty, the first thing you have to do is try to speak to the victim or to the casualty. See if the victim actually responds. The victim could be responding, maybe he's drowsy, or even irresponsive, he's in a coma, probably lying on the ground. So it's very important before you do anything to definitely try and make contact with the victim, which is very, very important. And then the third thing would be look for bleed, is anywhere bleeding, and then tackle the bleeding. And then from there you go to the broken bones, of course. And what you need to also know is that after trying to make contact with the victim, is the victim actually breathing? That should be the first thing. So it's airways, and then you go to the tackling the bleeding, and then the broken bones. Okay. So first thing first is making sure that you are safe, and then making contact with the victim, check their airways, see if they are bleeding from anywhere, and then see if maybe they have some broken bones. You might not see it, but you can see when something is wrong. Let's say if the shoulder is lying somewhere, okay, there is something wrong here. Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned airways. At what point does the mouth-to-mouth breathing comes in?
Is when the victim is not breathing at all.
Okay.
Because oxygen is very, very important, right? I don't know if a lot of people actually know this, but there is oxygen in the blood. So as soon as the casualty is not breathing, that means there is not enough oxygen in the blood, meaning the organs are not oxygen rich, so which boils down to organs failure as well. So once you see that the victim is not breathing, that's when you actually start resuscitating, and then also do the mouth to mouth or mouth to nose breathing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we showed some picture of a bag, a bag that has some drugs and scissors. And then what goes into a first aid kit? Because I heard that you can't have paracetamol in the first aid, but I also know that people talk about first aid, and then they also say that there has to be maybe a painkiller, let's say G, what we use for the stomach pains as well. But people are also saying that you can't have some specific drugs in them.
Yes. So what I know.
Okay, so we have the picture on our screen.
Yes. So what I know from
Right.
where I come from, which is Switzerland, is that we don't really have painkillers, as in paracetamol, in our first aid bags, but we have aspirin. Aspirin is also a form of a painkiller, but aspirin in this case, in the first aid bags, is to help with heart attacks, because aspirin serves as a blood thinner, right, which should prevent blood clotting in the heart veins, or even blood clotting in the brain, or just anywhere in the body. So aspirin should be in your first aid bags, such as scissors, pincers, wound dressing, all of that. Ice packs should be in your first aid bag. But I mean, you can't just administer paracetamol to a victim, because what if he or she is allergic to it? Because you don't know the victim. You might not know the victim. You don't know the victim's family history. You don't know the victim's medical history. You don't know if he has any allergies, any underlying sicknesses. You don't know if he has, any liver conditions, any kidney conditions, any heart conditions. You don't know anything about the victim. So what if you give paracetamol and he's allergic to paracetamol? Then you have the next problem. So it is actually not advised to, just administer painkillers. But aspirin should always be with you. You should have aspirin in your cabinet. You should have aspirin in your car, because you just never know. You really just never know, because what if someone maybe in your family or in your close circle has a heart attack right now? What is the first thing you do? Obviously, you just put the person in a taxi and, get to the hospital. But as I said, every second is so important. What you can do, for example, is just let the person sit down or lie down comfortably, and then let the person chew on aspirin, not swallow, chew, because that's when the body absorbs the medication faster. Let them chew on aspirin and then take the casualty or the victim to the hospital. That one, you've saved the person's life, because what if you get to the hospital, there are so many patients, maybe the specific doctor is not around, you literally jeopardize the person's life, right? So aspirin should be in your bags. It should be in your first aid bag. Absolutely.
Okay, so what happens if the patients can't chew on the aspirin?
So you just put it under their tongue.
Oh,
it should
okay.
melt. Yes. The patient, or let's say the victim, shouldn't swallow it, because it just takes a while for the medication to work if you swallow it. But if you put it under your tongue or you chew it, it absorbs.
Okay.
So it absorbs, and it just speeds up the process of actually working.
Okay.
Yeah.
And by your experience, can you also share with us some real life example that first aid made a significant difference?
Yeah, so I remember, I think it was one morning going to work. That was when I was still in school, going to work, and there was an old lady that tripped and fell while climbing the staircase to the train. Right, and she's an elderly lady, so she really fell. And to our advantage, in Switzerland, there are first aid kits and bags in every train, or every public transport has that. So all you have to do is literally go to the driver and then get the bag and do what you are supposed to do. But there were a lot of people, and the first thing that we had to do is send everybody around away, because just imagine a lot of people breathing down on you, a lot of people around you just feel suffocated, right? There are just too many people around you at that time. So what we did is immediately we tried our possible best to pick up the old lady and just put her somewhere safe, right? And then she had a broken bone, which we could see. So all we had to do is we don't really do a lot with bones, right? So we just have to cover the bone and tackle the bleed, which we did. So we just took a bandage, wrapped around the bleed, and just pressed on the bleed, because that's supposed to stop the bleeding.
Okay.
To our advantage too, we had ice packs in the train, so in the first aid bag. So we just took an ice pack and just put it on the bleed, called an ambulance on the next stop, because we were still in motion. The ambulance came within a couple of minutes and then took her. So what we did in that moment was very important, because we got to find out that the old lady was taking blood thinner, and once you take blood thinner and you start bleeding, you lose a lot of blood. So by bandaging and putting on the ice pack, we actually got to save her life. She was elderly, so but we really got to save her life at that point. Yeah.
Right, that's good to know.
Yeah.
But the way you said there was ice pack already on the train,
Yeah.
is it different from the ice that we use for drinks?
Actually, yes, it's bigger. I think the ones that you use for drinks, like the ones that I know from the filling stations, they are smaller. But the ones that we know, they are quite big. They are
Okay.
like full. It's a full pack. And yes, the thing here is that Switzerland is a developed country, so everything happens fast, and everything is in order. So obviously every train, every bus, every tram, even the airplanes, they have their first aid kits ready, right? But what if you actually don't have a first aid kit? You have to use whatever you have now. Like in this case, instead of a bandage, you can use a t-shirt. You can use, maybe if you're wearing something like this, you can use that as well. If you have a singlet, remove the singlet. Like you really have to make use of what you already have. Yeah.
Okay. And I also hear that there is an ABC in first aid. Do you care to explain that to us?
Yeah, so the ABC actually, it really depends on how do you call it, the accident, like what exactly it is. Because the ABC could be airway for A, B for bleeding, and then C for cardiopulmonary, which is the heart and the lungs. So it really depends. There is even let's say if someone has a stroke, for example, there's also an ABC in there, but it's just obviously in different letters, but it's just like to show you what you have to do in what order. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. And are there types of first aid?
Yes, there are. As I said, like it's very broad. Like it's very, very broad. Like choking, there's a first aid, order for choking. There is one for stroke. There is one for heart attacks, accidents, trauma. Like it's so big. It's really big. Yeah.
Okay. Then it looks like we still need to learn.
Yeah.
Especially here in Ghana. Like you said, you can find first aid in every train, every bus, wherever you find yourself. But let's go and stand by the roadside and stop a few cars. Let's see how many drivers actually have first aids in their car.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, right now, we live. The thing here with Ghana is that our medical system is not that strong, right? So what we can do is help ourselves by learning first aid. Not every ambulance can come to where you are. You might be in the village somewhere. How will you get an ambulance to your village? Like it's long. It's a huge process, unfortunately, which shouldn't be the case. So right now, what we can do is learn to help ourselves with first aid. First aid can go a long way. You literally save someone's life by learning first aid. This is the little we can do to help ourselves, knowing very well that the medical system in Ghana is not that strong, right? So first aid goes a long way. You don't lose anything by learning first aid. It's a plus for you. You learn whatever you've learned and then you pass it on to the next person. Even kids right now should learn little things, little things that could save, each other's lives. So yeah.
Okay, and talking about that, are there any misconceptions about first aid that you often encounter in your career or profession?
Yes, some people actually think first aid is all about calling an ambulance. And it's really like that. Like I've had a lot of people, like I've asked a couple of people and they're like, oh yeah, calling an ambulance, taking the person to the hospital. I'm like, no, like there is a lot more to it. And this is something like I've come to find out that a lot of people actually do not know what first aid entails. They literally think, oh, let's just take the person to the hospital. Let's just call an ambulance. But it's a lot more to it. And like that's why I told myself, listen, I think whatever I've learned during schooling and whatever I've got to know right now, I think it's time for me to pass it on and let other people also know about it, because it has helped me and it will help you as well. Like if it has helped me in a well-developed country, it has to help in let's say a less developed country, right? It will take some time for Ghana to get to where they are supposed to be in terms of the medical system or the health system. But in the meantime, we can learn this and then help others.
Okay. Yeah. But how can an individual also enhance their readiness with first aid, like in terms of like you're talking about us educating ourselves when it comes to first aid. So how can we do that?
So Google is there,
Okay.
the internet is there. The
Right.
internet is full of educational stuff. I mean, you can choose what to do with the internet. You can choose to, I don't know, watch videos 24/7 and maybe not learn so much. And you can also, choose to learn about first aid from the internet. So Google is there. You can just literally Google it. There are books, there are videos, there are first aid instructors. Literally, I know there are a couple of first aid instructors in Ghana here, so you can, by these things, you can literally educate yourself or enhance your education, and also by talking to others as well, like as we are talking right now, I've seen that, okay, we are missing this and this and this. Maybe I have something that, I could give you, a little piece that I could give you, and then you know it as well, and then you can also pass it on to, others. So it is all out there. All we have to do is grab it, embrace it, learn it and pass it on to others. Yeah.
Okay. But you know that we find ourselves in a world, or I don't know if Switzerland is the same thing, but usually when an accident occurs, or when there is fire, when there's an incident, people rather record you rather than help you.
Yeah.
Is this something common?
It's everywhere.
Everywhere.
It's everywhere, and all you have to do is tell the person not to record. This is the only thing that you can do. You can't snatch the person's phone from them, right? So what you can do is, hey, stop recording, get me someone, or stop recording, come and do this, come and do that. It's also very important to delegate. You are on the scene, you can't do everything on your own, right? So maybe tell the person to, hold here, bring this, bring that. So in that case, all you have to do is tell the person not to record. Grab the person, you come and do this. So it's everywhere. It's even in Switzerland, and the only thing that we can do is tell the person not to record. So yeah.
Right. And since you mentioned important, I want you to also enlighten us about some of the importance of first aid, so that if someone is watching, they will actually educate themselves and start learning first aid, because it's very, very important from what you've told us.
So as she already said, first things first, it's important to learn first aid. Like, I think that's like first thing first. It's important to learn first aid. Why? Because first of all, the medical system in this country is not the best, right? So what you can do is actually learn first aid and help. It's literally all about helping. Learning first aid is not just, as I said, getting up and calling the ambulance, but in that moment doing something, because I already said this, every second counts. Like when you are on the scene and something happens and you see a victim bleeding out, like just imagine the person is bleeding every second, and maybe an amount of milliliters of blood, right? So in that moment, what do you actually do? And it's so important, because a lot of people forget that, hey, this is a human being, he or she has vital organs that needs blood, right? There's blood running through the whole system. Now, just imagine, it's like literally building a house, right? You start with the foundation and you keep building, you keep building, you keep building. Once there is a problem somewhere, everything collapses. And this is with the body. Once an organ fails to function, the whole body shuts down, right? Because it's a circle, right? It's the heart, lungs, brain, heart, lungs, brain. So once there is a fault somewhere, everything shuts down. So it is very important to know that every single second counts. Every single second counts. Learning first aid is so important. You save someone's life. You give someone the opportunity to live, actually, right? And also it is for your own good, because you never know when something might happen to you, right? So you want to make sure that whatever you are learning, you pass it on so that when something happens to you, someone can help you as well. So this is why first aid is very, very important.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, are there some more important things that we need to know when it comes to first aid?
I think everything is equally important. There's not like something more important than others. But I just want to say that also one very important thing is being calm in the situation. In as much as your goal or your focus is to help the victim right now, it is very important for you to be calm as well, because being calm just helps you stay focused, and you're being sound-minded by helping. And also, before I forget, is that cross-contamination, right? Let's say the victim, you don't know the victim, you don't know what the victim has. Let's say the victim has an infection, or let's say a contamination, which could be HIV, hepatitis, and you don't know. And let's say you have a cut and you get in contact with the victim's blood, you might get whatever he has as well. So if you have, by chance, you might have some gloves in the car, wear them. Or if you have glasses, any type of glasses, it could be sunglasses, reading glasses, it actually protects, your eyes from having fluid getting into your eyes, or even a mask, face mask. I know some people still have face masks in their cars or in their bags. Just wear them to prevent cross contaminations or cross infections. And immediately you are done and the paramedics have taken over, get yourself checked. So many people forget that, to get themselves checked. Get yourself checked. Go to the nearby clinic, get blood drawn. Let them check for any type of infection that you might have gotten unknowingly, from the victim. It's very, very important. A lot of people actually forget this, but it is also very, very important, which all boils down to protecting yourself, right?
Okay, that's good to know, and it's been an educative one, and I'm hoping that anyone out there watching us this morning will actually educate him or herself regarding first aid. And it means that there's a lot we even need to do here in Ghana.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that is going to happen. I don't know. I just don't know how. But I think we have to find a way. We have to find a way. But have you also had any personal experience here in Ghana in terms of first aid?
Personally, no. But I've lost, friends, closed ones, by lack of actually giving first aid. So it is very, very important, family members, departing from us way too early, because what was supposed to be done at that moment wasn't done. But it could have been prevented, right, through first aid. So this is what actually motivates me to do this, right? And also, you said like it all starts with you, right? Like whatever I have given out right now, you can take it and then give it to someone else, right? So it really starts with you. It starts with us, how bad we actually want this, right? How bad we want to learn this. And I'm so grateful to actually know this, because now I can give it to someone else, and I know for a fact that something might happen out there and the person will be able to help. They might not get everything right now, but at that moment, trust me, if they get to that situation, something will come to their mind and they'll be able to help. So it all starts with you, how bad you actually want this, how important it is to you right now. And if you say, okay, I've learned this and this and this, I'll share it with someone else, you've done a huge thing. It's a huge step already, because what I've realized here in Ghana is that they don't really talk about first aid. It's not a topic that people really speak about, but it has to be spoken about. Like, it needs more awareness, especially in these times. Like, drivers are driving crazy, so drivers are driving crazy right now. Accidents can happen at any time. you'll be there and then you see a house starts burning, you know, or maybe someone has been knocked down, and you just want to know how to react in that moment. It really goes a long way.
Right.
Yeah.
I think they are not talking about it because they don't know.
Yeah.
We hear the word first aid, and we know it's a common word we hear. But what exactly do we know about first aid?
Yeah.
That's the point.
That's actually
yes.
the point.
And I don't, like I mentioned, I don't know how or what we can do about that, or who, like, I don't know if education itself will be enough, because we really have to take it serious.
Yeah.
I remember that I hosted an event. Okay, that event I was not the host, but I attended an event, and then it was about this driving company they launched.
Okay.
And a woman came to give a speech, and the woman was telling us about how she lost his son as a result of first aid, and people just watching when the whole accident occurred. She said it was around the Accra Mall area, and this was a very popular incident that people know about. I've forgotten the actual details of the story. So I think that if we've had a lot of education about first aid, she feels like her son could have been helped.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. It really requires more attention. Schools as well, you know,
Right.
and all the schools and unis and even companies, institutions. I know a couple of companies that go through first aid seminars, like when you do onboarding, they actually teach you
Here in
about,
Ghana?
Yeah, they actually teach you about first aid, but they don't go into details, which is okay, but they do the basics, right? So as I said, it really takes one person to do this. It takes one person to actually be on the scene and help, you know, because through that, people will actually see that, hey, someone is helping, someone is doing something, you know. So as I said, it takes one person to do it. It really takes one person to actually be on the scene and then do it, and everybody will follow. This is how I see it, because imagine you get to a scene and you see someone is helping, someone is doing something. Whatever the person is doing, you will pick it up, right? You will pick it up. You go somewhere else, something has happened, and you would want to help just based on what you've seen or what you saw. So it really starts with just one person.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you are Ghanaian, and now you reside at Switzerland.
So I was born and raised in Switzerland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. But you're Ghanaian.
Yes.
So are you back purposely for this project, or you are just doing your own thing, but you decided to educate people on
Actually, I mean, I come from the medical field, so it's always a part of me. Wherever I go, whatever I do, I take it along. But it's been on my mind for a while that I've seen that there is a gap here in Ghana, and it's huge, you know. I've lost family members, I've lost friends due to lack of first aid. So it has always been a part of me. So anytime basically I come to Ghana, I just make sure that I do something, right?
Okay.
And this time I've decided to do this.
Right, which is a good one.
Thank
But because of time, we would have to quickly wrap up.
Sure.
But what do you think Switzerland people or the medical team or even hospitals are doing right that we here in Ghana are not doing right in terms of first aid? And how can we also improve on that?
So even in Switzerland, there are some that actually don't know first aid, right? So I just want to put it out there that even Switzerland or other, you know, European countries, the Western countries, some don't know first aid, right? And I think it really, really starts small. Now, if we start to compare Switzerland and Ghana, it's huge. You can't compare them because Switzerland is a well-developed country. Ghana, we are yet to get there. So if I say, oh, Switzerland does this and this and this and this right, Ghana does this and this and this and this wrong, like, it's wrong because there are two different countries, right? And one is well developed and one is less developed, but we are yet to get there. But what I want to say is that it really starts with education. Like, I would really want and wish that everybody, you know, maybe one afternoon, one evening, just sits down and just Googles first aid. It's really that simple. Just Google first aid. There are lots of doctors and physicians that have articles all about first aid, PDF files, videos, lectures on YouTube, on their websites. Just go through it and just see. You don't really have to go into details, but just see, right? Just see what's in there. And by that one, it will just make a huge difference, because then we'll be like, okay, you understand this. Then we can say, okay, you want to learn this, you want to educate yourself. So it really starts by Googling. Like, it's that simple. Just Google first aid and see what's actually in there, right? So I'm not really a fan of doing comparisons, because the gap is too big. But what we could do is educate ourselves. Just Google, right? If you can get a first aid bag, you don't even have to get the first aid bag itself. If you have maybe a small bag, go to the pharmacy, get some scissors, get some bandages, get some plasters, get some aspirin, put it in that bag, store it in your car or in your cabinet. This is what we can do. This is what we should do. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much
It's
for
been
having me.
An educative one.
Thank
so
you.
please, if there is something you want to say, your final words, then you can leave us with maybe your social media handles, how we can reach you.
Absolutely. So I go by the name Miss Lids, and I'm all on the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and what I definitely want to say, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for tuning in, for watching this. And also, first aid is very important. As I already said, it takes one person to do it. Go to Google, go on YouTube, go on even Twitter, just type in first aid. Grab whatever you can grab, learn it, and pass it on to someone else. You save a lot of lives by doing that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you once again. And thank you, my cherished here, for sticking and staying with me throughout the entire show. In case you joined us here today on the show because of Miss Late, then please, you are part of the Stand Up on Shobiz TV family, because we are always bringing you exciting and educative content here on the show. And we are just getting started, so you might want to stay glued to your TV set, or in case you're watching us on Facebook or on YouTube, because we're streaming live right there. So we still have more for you here. Do also stick and stay with me. I will be right back.
I'm gonna do my part and make this a part.